is over, and we need to count how many times he can fire between 2 rounds of this. However long it takes. So your second shot, we're going to count how many times he shoots. Theoretically, he should get off at least 4 rounds by the time he shoots his second shot. But let's find out. What do you think? Gentlemen, load your weapons. They're going to fire, and then you got to count how many times he fires before he gets his second shot off. I'll give the command to give the first shot when you're ready, gentlemen. Are you ready? Ready, gentlemen? Ready. Aim. Fire. Load as fast as possible. Try fire. Come on, hold it. Okay, keep going as fast as you can.
It's gonna take forever.
Alright, stop. Stop. Got 3. I'm going to give that. Guys, got enough ammunition to do it one more time? Sure. Sure? Okay, because you didn't ramrod the second time. Okay, you got a ramrod. So he cheated. So we're going to try it again. You got to watch these reps, you know. Yeah. All right, gentlemen, you want to try one more time? Gentlemen, load your weapons. So you see that he has to ramrod these where he does not. And he also has a breech loader, and this is a muzzle loader. I'll give the command to fire the first round.
Your timing better be like the opposite of theirs.
Gentlemen, are you ready? Are you? Is everybody else ready?
Yes.
Keep track of how many times he fires before he gets the second round off. Are you ready? Ready! Aim! Fire! All right, go for it. Here's the ramp. You got an alarm going. So, demonstration, carbine is twice as fast as the muzzle. Thank you, gentlemen. Very good job. I want to know that.
Now we know.
Who has it come out yet?
Yeah, I do.
Didn't watch it today.
All like you.
You cut it. And they have a cap, just like the other one had.
Yeah, but there's a graduate coming from where I was.
They put the cap on here.
And there's a standing rod.
Again, I'm on half cock because I don't want to go off half cock. Right?
Oh, it's a half one.
Fire!
Somebody.
That was a 54 caliber.
52 originally.
And this could fire about twice as fast as a musket because it was a breech loader. The cavalry had all the firepower. The difference is they didn't have the range. The shorter barrel made it so it would shoot as far. So they have to get in closer. Yes. No. It doesn't need bullets to shoot. This is a shooting sniper. But if I was really a soldier, I would have lead. Would you get a sword?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we do. So, that's what the soldiers had, the cavalry, they had a pistol, they had a carbine, they had a knife, and then when they You may not have all the ammo. Oh, okay. The saber. The saber never exploded. So they have this around.
We're going to have a little bit of a cannon demonstration, folks.
Okay, why don't you go see that and you can come back, okay?
Well, let's watch the cannon
You
demonstration.
got to stand back here, guys. Stand back here. Back up to the hand, maybe the little guy. All right. The cannon could shoot well over a mile, and some cannonballs were small. Some were like 20-pounders, about the size of a softball. Some were 200 pounds. They weighed this much, and they had to have a hoist, the cannoneer, to put them down the barrel. Some of the cannonballs were solid, and they would knock down buildings or forts or walls. And some of the cannonballs, like the ones I have over on the side, have gunpowder in them, and the cannoneer would shoot it maybe over to the market or the stores way over there, if that was an encampment, and then when the cannonball went into the encampment, it would explode, and shrapnel would go all over. Okay? A good cannoneer could line up the cannon and hit a little Volkswagen car way over on the other side of the main street there, about a half a mile away. He could hit a Volkswagen. Oh, they have, there's a fuse, and the fire that comes out of the cannon would ignite it. I can show you on the ball over there, and they can set the timer for a certain amount of time. If the cannoneer set the timer to 1, in 1 second, it would explode. And they could set the charge so that it would come out of the cannon at 1,000 feet per second. If he set it on 5, it would take 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It would explode. 5 seconds at 5,000 feet is almost a mile. So a mile away, the cannonball would explode. All right? They had a chain, and they would pull it, and it was an igniter. My little cannon just has a fuse, so I'd light it with a match. So that's the only thing about this cannon that's not period.
I have a question.
Fire in the hole! Notice the cannon rolled back. A full-size cannon would roll back as much as 3 feet. So there was a crew of 9 men who would operate the cannon. And they had to stand clear of that cannon or it would run back and hit the man in back. So being on a cannon crew was a real special job for the Civil War. And the cannons were hauled backwards by horses like this. And they also had a cart in the back. It was called the limber. Does anyone know what the limber was for? Ammo. In the limber, there was had big wheels like that. The wheels were this high, and there was a big chest, a wooden chest, and they put all the ammunition in there. And one specific man was tasked with the job of taking the fuse and all of the explosives. He would put it in his saddlebag, much like this one, but it was made out of leather, and he would take it and he would hand it to the cannoneer, and the cannoneer would put it down the barrel and ram it in where they ramrod. The reason they would put it in a leather pouch is because there was gunfire, and you didn't want a quarter of a pound or 2 or 3 pounds of explosives being handed. Put it in a pouch, he would walk up to the cannoneer, and the cannoneer would take it out of the pouch covered and ram it down the barrel real fast. So it's a very dangerous job. Any questions? Yes.
How does the ball
Oh, this one has a little fuse. You saw me light it with a match. The real cannoneers had a long string, and they had something like a little cap, and they would put it down the vent hole. And when the cannoneer said, "Fire," the man would pull that, and it would make a spark. And that ignited the gunpowder.
But how does it spark?
There's, have you ever seen a cigarette lighter? How you turn that little wheel, and there's a spark? That's how.
So I made some money this time.
Anything else?
My
Questions?
closest thing ever to an
Thank you.
roadshow.
Yeah, I'll do it again maybe in about a half hour.
Big one.
The cavalry fought with these weapons on foot when they could. Most of the time they preferred to do that. It was basically 3 ways of firing. And they operated what was called as skirmishers, where they spread out at 5-yard intervals. The idea was to draw the enemy in so that the infantry could take them on. And they would fire with really only 3 different ways of shooting. We're going to show you those. And so if we'll face that way as skirmishers. Right. So the command after you got off, if they're ready, would be to load.
Go half cock, because you don't want to go off half cock.
They have a paper cartridge with the bullet mounted in the front of it. Paper, linen, silk. When you pull the hammer, it exposes the powder inside. Prime. That was a command to place a cap. This is fulminated mercury in there, just like a modern cap gun. Goes on the nipple. Yes. It's hard to. So we'll take a knee. Take a knee. File by fire from the right. Ready. And that's a command to go to full cock. Aim.
Fire!
Fire.
Okay. That one doesn't look in that.
Now they would automatically load again after that.
The reason they do file by fire is because then it keeps a steady stream of gunfire. If you go, I go, he goes, and then they go around again. So it's like almost like a machine gun.
If you have a full company of 100 men, that's constant fire. And if I reload as soon as I shoot, and then it keeps rolling. Now the next one is a volley fire. This is where we need it to be quick, all at once. Ready? Fire.
That was pretty cool. Whoa, did that? Awesome, because the swimming
Now if you want the fire to start on the other end, file fire from the left. Ready. Aim. Fire.
Oh, I saw fire come out of that one.
Now the last one, and we won't do that, is fire at will. That means you just keep shooting.
Anybody named Will?
Reload and shoot.
I can feel something burning too.
Every time we do a reenactment, somebody's got to say, where is Will? Any questions? Yes?
How come you can fire 2 bullets at the same time?
Only single shots. Good question. Only have one shot at a time they can do with these. And that's why they did the file fire, so they keep a constant line of fire.
I have another.
All right.
How come the first time that gun wasn't that loud?
Because it actually didn't go off.
I got to try fire.
That happened in real
The
life.
spark didn't like the powder. What I did was put another cartridge in, then I got them both to go at the same time. Yes.
How come you don't shoot three horses? What the heck?
They were just coming out with repeating weapons at the time of the Civil War. They were expensive. And there was a thought that if you gave one of those guns to the average trooper, he would waste ammunition. So they were reluctant to issue them for both reasons. Yes. They're very accurate, up to 1,000 yards. Yeah.
But actually the carbines had a shorter range of muskets. So the shorter barrel.
The longer rifles were more accurate.
In fact, if we had somebody with a musket, we could do a musket carbine.
Yeah, right. What? Yeah. They were using the same manuals. They were all trained. The officers were all trained in the same, except there were more military schools in the South before the war. Some of their officers were trained in those schools as opposed to West Point. But they were all pretty much using the same manuals. Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, you were that's why.
I think we could beat this one.
They didn't fight fair.
I'm going to see if I can get a guy to do the musket versus the carbine.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. You're camouflage too. I don't even see your feet. Oh, wait a minute. In this weather, probably a good idea.
This takes a little time. This is a 6-shooter.
But then there are a lot of people
This is a 1851 Colt 36 caliber pistol.
wagon, you know.
So the first thing they had to do is put powder in each one of these
People always felt better.
cylinders. Whoops.
One of those things.
I wonder why.
Really bad.
You're welcome.
So this is black powder. Very smoky.
I was going to take your picture
Very
out
messy.
here, but I got involved.
Dig in there and take it in.
Yeah, I got 6 rounds of powder I put in here.
That's a good thing you
Get
did.
two of them, that's enough.
Not do this at home. So next I would do is I put a lead ball in each one of these. Now since I don't want to fire live rounds today because I don't want to hurt anybody, I'm going to use cream of wheat for the blank.
Remove.
So if you use for your breakfast cereal, that makes me a serial killer. So I'm pretending I'm putting a ball in here now. Okay? I have to do it 6 times. Okay, then you have to ram each one of those cylinders down. That's like a musket. You got to ram the powder and the ball in.
And pray it doesn't explode on you.
Mashing it down. And now I got the ball and the powder in. Now if I'm going to have this for a while, I got to make sure that it doesn't get any water in there. So I'm going to put grease on top of that. And it also prevents what they call a chain fire. A chain fire is when one cylinder sparks into the other one and it makes it go off, which is very embarrassing and very dangerous. So that's why we put the lard in each one of these cylinders. Each one of these has to have lard in it. Again, waterproofing and to prevent cross-firing. Are you guys bored yet? All right, am I done now? No, you're wrong. Who said that? Daniel? Have you seen this before? And now what you got to do is you got to put a cap on each one of these cylinder ports. See that little thing there? You have to put a cap. be very, gotta have very small fingers for that. I don't.
I got the lady's card.
I have no fingers.
Yeah, but it's too dangerous. So you can't do this at home.
Do a story.
You're pretty scrawny.
I only have
Give me a little spoon.
But this happened to be on the way.
So each one of those cylinders have to have a cap on top of it.
I have seeds in my
hard.
Laura has her recital today.
Yeah, 4:30.
I want
We were at an antique
Where's
show.
her recital?
Northridge.
At Northridge. Okay. I know where that is. My daughter lives there.
It's these rectangular.
It is. We've never done this before.
After you're all done, you had 6 shots, which most muskets and carbines only had 1, right? It
50th anniversary.
took a while to get them loaded, but once you load it, and they typically had 2 pistols on them at the same at one time.
Selling the two together for $300.
No, not quite. You'll have it on safety board.
That's coming out. I think that's really. Yeah, I like that.
We don't do Indian wars very much.
But I wanted the red and there's my lights.
The 1851 pistol was actually used by the California Volunteers. That was the weapon of choice
I like that.
It makes it look red.
at the time.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, it's good, huh? You want us to shoot it now? Sure? Oh, it's loud. You sure? Okay. Let's come out here where it's safer, huh?
Got your ears covered?
Hold it like this because you don't want your hand on the trigger until you're ready to pull it. Okay? And I have it here half cocked. That's a safety as well. You don't want to go off half cocked. Are you guys ready? I got 6 shots. Let's see how many I can really get off. Ready? Somebody say fire.
Fire!
Shots. I'm done. Now I got to go to what next? Sword.
Oh, sword, yeah.
I stay here. I'll go get it.
Yeah.
So I shot my carbine. I shot my pistol. Now I go to this as a last resort. These typically thing had here was called a saber knot. If you ever had a boogie board, it's your boogie board leash. Okay? Wrap around their arm. And they had a complete drill, which I don't know how to do, but a deep procedure of how to draw swords and how to protect themselves. So they draw their sword, and then they would use it like this, behind them, all different ways to protect themselves in a sword fight. Now, this is going to be a little gross, guys, but they didn't really keep these sharp. For various reasons. One thing, pulling it out of a metal saber is not great for sharp knives. So this was actually used more as a battering ram than as a slicing device. There's 2 things they would really do. They would do a puncture wound, which is very bad. That's very deadly. Or they would break things. They would go and they would actually, this thing on my shoulder is called a scale. It was armor. So when you got hit with a sword, it would protect your collarbone. So what they typically would do is try to break your skull or try to break your collarbone with these. And that would totally disable you. Of course, the blow to the head would probably kill you, and the one to the collarbone would disable you totally. So that's what this was, more of a battering and sticking device, and not a slicing thing as you might think it would be. Very little bit of slicing done with these. Mostly puncture wound. And riding on a horse at very fast speeds, you got a lot of power behind you. So So it's mostly used for breaking bones and for slight puncture wounds. That's it. I'm out of. Oh, wait, I got one more. Last resort. In California, these were issued to all the troops. It's called the Green River knife, and it was used for all kind of stuff. It was used for cutting grass for the horses so they could graze. It was used for actually kitchen work, and at last resort as a self-defense item. It could also be used for digging a rifle pit too. So these were very handy, and they were ordered to be issued to all the cavalry and all the infantry in the California volunteer troops.
What's the significance of Green River?
That was a trade knife at the time. It was very popular in the West.
Okay.
Very popular knife. Very universal. You see, it's basically a glorified kitchen knife. Very, very sharp.
I noticed it doesn't have any, I'm not sure what the term is, but...
Bloodproof?
No, protect your hands.
Oh yeah.
Going up pommel, okay.
Pommel.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very versatile. Again, probably mostly used for cutting grass with the horses in the rain. Yes? This? Oh. That's some kind of farmer's equipment. This used to be a ranch. Probably used for making bales of hay.
Well, the picture that's located behind this building kind of says that it was a cattle ranch.
Yes.
So around here there was a lot more cattle rustling and whatever.
Yes.
But I'm not really familiar with the true history.
Oh, the history? Well, this actually was a Civil War site. The only site in California with a basically authentic incident that happened in the Civil War. So in the 1860s time period, Southern California was a hotbed for secessionists. They wanted to split this state in half. The half would go south and half would go north. The state itself was mostly, the power was located in the San Francisco-Sacramento area, and that's where most of the political power was. So they actually, most of the volunteer troops came from Northern California, and they came to Southern California to make sure that the state didn't get out of hand. The South was very interested in California for two reasons. They wanted the ports because the East Coast was all blockaded, so they couldn't get any supplies in. So they wanted the western ports to get supplies into the South. They also wanted the gold fields because that was a lot of source of income for them. They needed money. So they really wanted Southern California. So actually, troops from Texas came into Arizona and New Mexico and took over that territory. That actually became the Southern Territory during the Civil War. It wasn't a Southern state because there wasn't a state yet. It was a territory. So that actually went south. So those were actually Southern territories. So the Texans came in and they were meant to come into California. Meanwhile, 15,000 troops were raised, about 7 companies of cavalry and the rest about 2 or 4 companies of infantry were raised. They went out, they actually came here because there was a secessionist. One of our state senators was named Showalter, and he was coming with a group of about 25 secessionists heading east to join the Confederacy. And the 2nd California Volunteer Cavalry caught up with him in Temecula and arrested him. So that was really the only Civil War, and that happened 150 years ago in November. So this is the 150th anniversary of that event. They put him in jail. They took him to Fort Yuma, which was a big post for them, and they put him in jail for about a year. But meanwhile, the Texans were coming out west. The California troops were going back east. They ran into each other along with the Colorado troops, Union troops, volunteers, coming down from the north. And they met and had 2 battles, Glorieta Pass and another battle.
Chico?
Huh?
Pachaco?
Picacho was more of a skirmish, but that was the furthest west. And that was in Arizona. So they had about 2 major battles and about 2 skirmishes. And they finally drove the Texans back to Texas. They did it by attacking their supply chain. So they ran out of food and weapons and they had to make the march back. Protected California from going south. Showalter went to jail for about a year in Yuma. He promised, along with those other troops, that they did the oath to the Union. And they released him. Immediately went to Texas and joined the Confederacy. And actually commanded a Confederate unit and actually defeated the Union troops in a battle there in Texas. So he did go south. Any other questions?
When did they actually start using regular bullets? What year was that?
They had some rimfire as early as 1860. The Spencers.
Okay.
That was a gun they could load on Sunday and fire all week. It carried 7 rounds.
Okay. So during the Civil War, it was pretty much the way you guys have been showing
Most of the things that we're showing here are because of economics. The muskets were dirt cheap. Carbines were more expensive. Repeaters were very expensive. So it was limited more by taxpayer dollars than by technology.
So after the Civil War, all that was invented or used.
Yeah, it was developed in the Civil War. And in fact, Sherman's troops had mostly Spencers. And that's why even with so few troops, he was so dominant. You can imagine muskets against a 7-shot. It was carnage. All right, thanks, folks.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
You won't fire that way. That way you don't go off that pump.
You can also buy its medicine down in the store.
When you're holding a gun, you hold it like this, you hold it like this. See my fingers out, not cutting like that. That's the safety as well. You want to put your finger on the trigger, stay ready. You try it? Sure. Misfire. Misfire. No cap on that. We have one misfire. Actually, what happened, it wasn't a misfire, is that when the other gun, you have to pitch the caps to keep it stay on. So when I fired one, it bounced off and it came out. I can't fire it. Fire the hole. once they've seceded. Beef fat in cans. So in a 10-gallon, got a board in it, cook it in the fat.
They would ram that right into the side, and the string was real long as they backed away, maybe from here across the street. That's how long the string was. This canister full of gunpowder would blow up, and it would sink the ship. Oh, there's a little propeller. You can see it right there, and there's a round shroud on it. The men, you ride a bicycle. There were about 14 men, 7 on each side, and they would pump the bicycle chain, and that's what would make the shaft turn with the prop. Didn't have a motor.
Try that this weekend.
Look at this one, Jim.
Next week.
And this one is $5 from Richmond, Virginia. And in the south, if you went to Richmond, Virginia, and you wanted to go, say, to Georgia, it was very... Spin it real quick, right? Okay. The soldiers or the civilians would have a hard time because why? Why do you think? After the Civil War, then the federal
like this to measure things out with, so that you just follow the recipe and measure things. Great.
Nice.
Sometimes we fry up onions and put them with a little flour, make a nice poultice, and actually it's very warm.
Originally out of the Benicia arsenal.